The game of tennis is failing. While stars like Roger Federer, Naomi Osaka and Rafael Nadal consistently top the charts and rake in millions of dollars a year, there remains the lower echelon of athletics, the ones who struggle to keep up with the demands of the game and are forced to take up second jobs just to survive. Even the highest paid tennis players earn far more from sponsorship deals than they do while playing on the court. Their situation is a far cry from that of their basketball or baseball counterparts, who earn up to $509 million in salaries, only compared to the $57 million earned as prize money by the top 15 tennis earners in 2022. From the comparably low prize money attached to wins to the limited sponsorship opportunities for low-ranking athletes and high tour expenses, this widely loved sport is sadly failing its athletes. Welcome to Next Gen Tennis, and how tennis is a failing business for most players. Based on fans' participation and search trends, tennis appears to be the most popular non-team sport in the world, and the fourth most popular sport globally. As of 2019, approximately 1.17% of the world's population play tennis, translating to 87 million people globally, with about 47% of the players female and the remaining percentage male. With over 1 billion fans worldwide, the game is loved for its fun, entertaining, and highly competitive nature. As a business, however, the sport is failing heavily, falling behind hockey, cricket, and golf in global media rights value. In a highly televised age where most matches are streamed or watched, tennis owns only 1.3% of broadcasting rights, meaning that only a trickle amount of the money generated from streaming these matches goes to the game and its players. Its professional athletes are left to fend for themselves, oscillating between court performances and off-court appearances in a bid to secure endorsements and sponsorship deals for survival. Compared to other sports like basketball and football that pay their professional athletes sign-on bonuses and an agreed salary yearly just for being on the team, individual sports like tennis pays its players prize money based on a rather poor system of ranking and performance ratings. Before the start of any tennis tournament, the organization publishes a breakdown of how much the winner, runner-up, and semi-finalists stand to win as prize money. The amount each participating player makes away with is dependent on the tournament level they're playing in and at what stage they exit the tournament. For a pro tennis player competing in the 2020 Australian Open, he or she stands to gain $60,239 just for participating and winning in the first round. If he or she manages to make it to the finals and emerges the champion, the prize money attached is a staggering $2,757,624. This sounds like a lot of money until you begin to consider the mammoth expenses associated with playing on the tour. From travel costs, training and coaching fees, to costs for staying fit enough to play, these players are barely breaking even. They end up running into losses from spending their own money just to remain on the tour, not to mention that these payments are also taxed dependent on the host country's tax laws, bringing the take-home value to an estimated 60 to 80% of the initial amount on average. Post-running costs, these players end up with less than 40% of their earnings at the end of these competitions. In 2018, Noah Rubin, a professional tennis athlete, participated in 2 Grand Slam tournaments after ranking world number 125 on ATP's list. At the end of the season, he'd made about $225,000 in prize money, but walked away with just $15,000 from the total amount earned. The rest had gone into travel fees and tour expenditure.
With tennis, the 2 other things is court time is very expensive, and then the difficulties really start coming when travel costs get involved. That's really where everything comes.
The situation is dimmer for athletes who rank between 80 and 250 worldwide and compete in lower level tournaments, like the 125K Challenger. A professional player who exits the tournament at the quarterfinals goes home with a meager $4,380, while the tournament's winner earns prize money worth $21,600. How is a professional athlete expected to keep up with the expensive sport with such earnings? It further emphasizes the dip gulf that exists within the upper and lower ranks, and is more proof that the prize money system for tennis favors top-ranking athletes more than they do the others. Female players on the WTA have a worse fate as they earn lower prize money compared to their male counterparts on the ATP. During the pandemic crisis, some of these female athletes ranking in the top 300, like Jamie Loeb, were forced to take up part-time sales jobs just to stay afloat. The affected tennis players, including world number 371 Sofia Shapateva, signed petitions to the International Tennis Federation calling for help for those lower-ranked athletes, warning that players ranking below 250 would sooner than later be unable to buy food for themselves to eat.
First tournament I traveled to, I had only like $10 or $20 in my pocket, and I knew that if I didn't win a match, I wouldn't pay for a hotel, and there were days where I didn't eat and I played a match. There were days where I just literally spent a night on the train station and I played a match next day.
With an almost $2 billion valuation, the business of tennis can still only afford to pay about 100 of its top players. In 2019, tennis players received just 17.5% in prize money out of the total revenue generated from the larger tournaments combined. Most of its athletes source for sponsorships and endorsements to make up for the poor payment system. What's sadder is the fact that the lower-ranking athletes, despite not being able to make it to the big leagues in order to earn better prize money, are even less able to secure lucrative sponsorship deals to augment their income. This is because these top businesses and organizations look for professional athletes with more hype and social media visibility to better position their products. Top companies like Adidas and Nike make their selections mostly from the top 30 professional tennis athletes and rarely go beyond the top 60. This often means that the same top-ranking athletes are recycled for endorsements year in, year out, leaving these other struggling players to a sorrier fate. It's no wonder that some of these professional athletes withdraw from the sport after trying to get by continuously with no luck. From the outside, it's easier to say that these were not good enough for the game. But the harsh reality is that tennis is hard on players who are unable to break into the top 100. Hard, long years are spent competing in tournaments with the hope of amassing more performance points and moving up the rank. But their earnings are barely able to meet the strict demands of the sport. To get better, most athletes would require a full team complete with a coach and physiotherapist. These professionals would also have to get paid. Anxiety and depression shadow the paths of most of these players, causing some to bow out of playing the sport they love most. Coming to a painful realization after 7 years of playing the game professionally, tennis athlete Noah Rubin warns, if you're playing tennis to make a living, you're playing the wrong sport. For tennis player Josh Baker, who quit the sport at the age of 26 with a worldwide ranking of 186, it was watching his brother trade for Morgan Stanley and make a lot more money than he did. Sick of doing that, he turned his career towards the financial sector after years of trying and failing to move up the rank whilst recovering from injuries. Perhaps it's the fact that tennis is played individually and not in a team as opposed to other better paying sports, or better yet, it's the lack of a unified structure or program that makes tennis a failing sport for its players. Either way, the game borders on capitalism, favoring a select few and leaving the rest to sort their own fate. With its conflicting yearly activities organized by 7 separate entities, the 4 Grand Slam tournaments, the Women's Tennis Association, WTA, the Association of Tennis Professionals, ATP, and the governing body ITF, the International Tennis Federation, professional tennis players spend a typical year in between training for tournaments and traveling around the world to compete in them. The sport demands so much from these players, giving little in return, which is why world number 1 tennis athlete Novak Djokovic, along with pro tennis player Vasek Pospisil, co-founded the Professional Tennis Players Association, PTPA. The association aims to better protect the rights of tennis players and bridge the widening gap between top-ranking and lower-ranked athletes. The PTPA's newly launched commercial arm, Winners Alliance, hand in hand with the organization, proposes to establish a group purchasing program for tennis players' basic needs while on the tour. This, along with their plans to create additional streams of income for the players and negotiate exceptional deals on their behalf, brings hope, and with it a promise of revolution to the game of tennis. Maybe, just maybe, the sport can be saved.
We have thousands and tens of thousands of players that are competing around the world, and unfortunately only 400 to 500 players, both men and women, singles, doubles, mix, live from this sport. We are, by some statistics, third or fourth most globally watched sport. 1.3 billion watch it. Yet we can't have more than 400 people living from the sport. I've been trying to call on all the, governing bodies and organizations in our sport to get together and collectively figure this out. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet. Hopefully it will, because divisions are definitely not something that PTPA stands for. We actually want to unite. We want to, represent more of the voices of the players that are normally not heard. So we got to do a better job. We got to create a better system for them to make a living, at least break even, because I think if you're 200 in the world, you can't travel with a coach. You have to travel by yourself, 250 max. So, this is not good enough.